Hi there, I hope you are doing great. I am often being asked where I get my inspiration from, and I'm happy to answer this question. My greatest inspiration are the things that surround me. And by the way, I find simple, small, everyday things much more inspiring than big, important, rare, or expensive ones. For instance, this card was inspired by an ordinary breakfast that I had, and this is the picture of a breakfast itself. In this tutorial, I'm going to explain step by step what exactly I did to turn this picture into a card. Let's get started. I'm placing a 6x6 sheet of blue paper into a stamp positioning tool, and then I'm going to stamp a background pattern. This stamp I'm using is from Picnic Plaid set by Poppystamps. The ink I'm going to use is Faded Jeans Distress Oxide ink. It's great not only for blending but also for basic stamping. Since this stamp is so large, I might want to stamp it 2 or 3 times for the best impression. Then I'm going to use the paper trimmer to trim down this piece to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, which is going to be the size of my card. As always, the tools and supplies I'm using will be listed down below in the description box as well as on my blog. Here I have my A2 size card base made out of white cardstock, and I'm applying some tape adhesive onto the card front and sticking down the background. In the original picture, the dish had similar pattern, but on a card it's going to be the tablecloth. This sentiment die is Embossed Love by Poppystamps. I've die cut it 3 times, and then I'm going to trim down the letter O a little bit. You'll see later why I'm doing that. I'm trimming it down on all 3 die cuts, and then I'm going to layer them using the liquid glue. Layering die cuts is great for adding more dimension. I'm doing it on nearly every card that I make. Then I'm just gonna go ahead and apply some adhesive again at the wrong side, and I'm sticking down the sentiment closer to the bottom edge of the card. Next, I'm going to add my dish. I'm going to use a circle nested die set to create it. So I've die cut a circle as well as the matching frame. The dies I used are 4 1/4 and 3 1/2 inch ones. Now I'm simply sticking down the frame on top of the background, and that is going to help me to create the rim of the dish. You can only use a circle if you like, but this way it's a bit more realistic. I have applied a bunch of foam squares at the wrong side, and now I'm sticking down the dish onto the card so that it hangs off 2 edges of the card. Then I'm going to trim down whatever hangs off, and this way this whole composition is going to look very similar to the food photograph. I'm going to use the 2 donut dies by Poppystamps, the big one and the small one, to create something a bit healthier than donuts, the eggs. I have only used the icing dies, not the donut ones. I'm also going to use the small dies from the same circle set to create egg yolks. I'm coloring those small circles with squeezed lemonade distress ink, and then I'm going to add some shading with the wild honey distress ink. This orangish shade is meant to create that impression of the good quality farmer's eggs. When I'm done with the coloring, I can start adding all the elements onto the card front. I'm sticking down the smaller egg right on top of the letter O, and this is, by the way, exactly why I trimmed it down. It would have stick out from behind the egg otherwise. And this is what the finished sentiment should look like. Then I'm going to add my focal images, that is the large fried eggs. I'm sticking down the first one with the liquid adhesive right onto the dish. For the second one, I'm going to use some foam squares. Then I can attach the yolks, and as I'm sticking them down, I just want to make sure that that side that has more shading would face the same direction on both yolks. This die I'm going to use is also by Poppystamps, and it is actually an oak branch, but in my composition it's going to be the parsley or something similar. I've die cut this image a couple of times out of green paper. Now I'm going to trim it into pieces and arrange them on top of the dish. And once I'm happy with their placement, I'm going to use a bit of liquid glue and stick them down. No one will ever know that was in fact an oak branch. Next, I'm going to repurpose one more die. This one creates a circle border, as you can see. It's meant to do this negative pattern and trim off the edge, but now I'm just going to use all those tiny circles. Those ones will make peas, of course. The point is I will have to attach all the peas individually, but that is not a problem. It will actually make the entire composition much more realistic. I am applying a few drops of glue onto the dish, and then I'm using a pickup tool to transfer each pea onto the card. This is actually quite an easy task if you have a pickup tool. I am going to use every single circle from that border on my card, and then I can call it done. This is what the project looks like, and I really hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you like tutorials like these, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, because I'll be back really soon with more projects. Have a great weekend, and I hope to see you again really soon. Bye bye!